The Valorian Empire had ruled the outer spiral arm for 3,000 years. Their ships were massive. Their weapons were powerful. Their soldiers numbered in the billions. No species had ever challenged them and survived. The Valorians believed they were gods among the stars. They believed wrong. Commander Thex stood on the bridge of the Imperial destroyer Vengeful Claw. His 4 eyes scanned the tactical display with growing excitement. 3 small human vessels drifted near the border of Valorian space. They were patrol ships, lightly armed, minimal crew. Easy targets. "They have crossed into our territory," his weapons officer reported. "By accident or design, they are now valid prey." Vex smiled with his razor-filled mouth. The humans were new to this region of space. They had arrived only 50 years ago and had quickly spread across a dozen systems. The Valorians had watched them with disgust. These soft creatures with their fragile bodies and short lifespans dared to claim worlds near the mighty Empire. "Power all weapons," Thex ordered. "Signal the Crimson Fury and the Deathbringer. We strike together. Leave no survivors." The 3 Imperial destroyers moved like shadows through the asteroid field. The human patrol ships continued their scan of the region, unaware of the death approaching them. Dex felt pride swell in his chest. This would send a message. Humans would learn their place in the galaxy. The attack was swift and brutal. The Valorian ships dropped their cloaking fields and opened fire simultaneously. Plasma cannons tore through the first human vessel before its shields could activate. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of orange and white. 47 humans died in that single moment. The second patrol ship tried to run. Its engines flared to maximum power, but it was too slow. The Crimson Fury cut off its escape route while the Deathbringer hammered its shields. Within minutes, the ship was crippled, its hull breached, its crew floating dead in the cold void of space. The third ship fought back. Its captain, a woman named Sarah Chun, knew she would die, but she refused to die quietly. Her ship's weapons were designed for pirates and small threats, not warships. Still, she fired everything she had. A railgun scored hits against the Vengeful Claw's armor. Her missiles streaked toward the enemy. The Valorians laughed at her resistance. Commander Dex found it amusing, like watching an insect bite a giant. He ordered his ships to take their time, to make her suffer. They stripped away her shields piece by piece. They destroyed her weapons one by one. They left her floating in a broken ship, watching her crew die around her. Captain Chen's last act was to send a message. A single transmission burst toward human space. It contained everything. The sensor logs, the visual recordings, the identification codes of the Valorian ships, the faces of her dying crew. She sent it all before the final shot punched through her bridge and ended her life. 132 humans died that day. The Valorians collected what remained of the ships as trophies. They celebrated their easy victory. Commander Thex sent a report to the Imperial Council. He recommended more attacks. The humans were weak, he said. They would make excellent slaves. Their worlds would make excellent additions to the Empire. The Imperial Council agreed. They began planning an invasion. They estimated it would take 3 months to conquer all human territory. Some council members argued it might take only 2 months. They debated the details over fine wine and exotic food. They laughed about the coming slaughter. They did not understand what they had done. The message from Captain Chun reached Earth 7 days after her death. It passed through relay stations and communication networks until it arrived at the headquarters of the United Human Fleet. Admiral James Morrison watched the recording in silence. He saw the ambush. He saw the massacre. He saw Captain Chun's face in her final moments. She had been his student at the academy 30 years ago. He had attended her wedding. He had held her daughter at her christening. Admiral Morrison was 63 years old. He had spent his entire life preparing for a war he hoped would never come. Humanity had encountered 17 alien species since leaving Earth. Most were friendly. Some were neutral. None had been openly hostile, until now. The Admiral called an emergency meeting of the Fleet Command. 12 admirals gathered in a secure room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. They watched the same recording he had watched. They saw the same death. They felt the same cold fury building in their chests. The Valorian Empire, Admiral Morrison said. Population estimated at 40 billion. Military strength approximately 15,000 warships. They have ruled their region of space for 3 millennia. They believe themselves invincible. And we have what? Admiral Yuki Tanaka asked. 8,000 ships? Half of which are still under construction. We have more than ships, Morrison replied. We have something they cannot understand. Something they will learn to fear. The humans did not respond immediately. The Valorians expected panic. They expected negotiations. They expected surrender. They received silence. Weeks passed. The Imperial Council grew confused. Their spies reported no military movements in human space, no calls for peace, no signs of preparation for war. Commander Vex was promoted to Fleet Master for his successful attack. He was given command of the invasion fleet. 200 warships gathered at the border of human space. They were the finest vessels in the Valorian Navy. Their crews were veterans of 100 campaigns. They had crushed rebellions and conquered empires. They feared nothing. The invasion began on what the Valorians called the Day of Glory. 200 ships crossed into human territory with weapons hot and shields raised. They expected resistance. They found empty space. The first human colony world was abandoned. Its cities were dark. Its orbital stations were unmanned. The Valorians landed troops and found nothing but silence. The second world was the same, and the third, and the fourth. 15 human worlds lay empty before the advancing fleet. No defenders, no civilians, no life at all. Fleet Master Vex grew uneasy. Where had the humans gone? Where were their ships? Where was their fleet? The answer came on the 16th day of the invasion. The Valorian homeworld was called Valoria Prime. It was a beautiful planet of blue oceans and green continents. 20 billion Valorians lived there. The Imperial Palace stood at the center of the capital city, a monument to 3,000 years of dominance. The planet was protected by a defense grid of orbital platforms and ground-based weapons. It was considered impregnable. The human fleet arrived without warning. They did not come through normal space. They did not use the established jump lanes. They appeared from nowhere, directly in orbit above Valoria Prime. 4,000 warships. Humanity had not sent half their fleet to defend their colonies. They had sent their entire navy to attack the heart of the Empire. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Retribution. Around him, his fleet spread across the sky like a storm of steel and fire. The Valorian defense grid was already firing. Orbital platforms launched missiles and plasma beams at the human ships. Ground-based cannons sent streams of destruction into orbit. The humans did not slow down. Their ships were smaller than Valorian warships. Their technology was younger, but humans had learned something in their short time among the stars. They had learned that wars were not won by caution. They were won by audacity. They were won by the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. The first wave of human ships crashed into the defense grid like a fist. They took terrible losses. Hundreds of vessels were destroyed in the first hour. But they kept coming. They kept fighting. And slowly, they began to win. Human weapons were different from Valorian weapons. They did not rely on plasma or energy beams. They used kinetic force, railguns that fired solid slugs at incredible speeds, missiles that carried warheads of compressed matter, bombs that released the fury of contained singularities. Each shot was a hammer blow against the Valorian defenses. The orbital platforms fell one by one. The ground-based cannons were silenced. Human dropships descended through the atmosphere, carrying soldiers who had trained their entire lives for this moment. They landed in the streets of the capital. They fought through the palace guards. They stormed the Imperial Council chambers. Fleet Master Thex received word of the attack while still in human space. He ordered his invasion fleet to return home immediately, but the journey would take weeks. By the time he arrived, it would be too late. He had led his forces into a trap. He had left his homeworld defenseless. Admiral Morrison walked through the burning halls of the Imperial Palace. His boots crunched on broken glass and fallen stone. Around him, his marines secured the building room by room. The Valorian guards fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed. The battle was already decided. He found the Imperial Council cowering in their meeting chamber. These were the beings who had ordered the death of Captain Chun. These were the ones who had laughed about conquering humanity. They did not laugh now. They begged. They pleaded. They offered wealth and territory and anything else they could imagine. Morrison looked at them with cold eyes. He thought of Chun. He thought of the 132 humans who had died in that ambush. He thought of their families waiting for loved ones who would never return. "You ambushed our patrol," he said quietly. 3 small ships, 132 people. You thought we were weak. You thought we would submit. You thought wrong. The human occupation of Valoria Prime lasted exactly 7 days. In that time, the Imperial military was dismantled. The fleet was scattered. The government was dissolved. The Valorian Empire, which had stood for 3,000 years, collapsed in less than a month. Fleet Master Thex returned home to find his world under human control. His fleet was intercepted by human warships. They offered him a choice, surrender or die. He chose surrender. He was brought before Admiral Morrison in chains. "Why?" Thex asked. "Why did you respond with such force? We killed only 100 of your people. You have killed millions of ours." Morrison leaned close to the defeated fleet master. His voice was soft but carried the weight of human history. "Because," he said, "we wanted you to understand something. Every human life matters to us. Every single one. When you killed those patrol officers, you did not attack a weak species. You woke a sleeping giant. You taught us that you were our enemy. And we do not leave enemies standing." The former Valorian Empire was divided into sectors governed by a coalition of species. The humans did not claim territory for themselves. They did not demand tribute or slaves. They simply ensured that the Valorians would never again threaten anyone. Across the galaxy, other species watched and learned. They studied what had happened. They understood the lesson. Humanity was kind to its friends. It was generous to strangers. It was peaceful when possible. But if you attacked them, if you killed their people, if you made yourself their enemy, there was no force in the universe that would save you from their response. The stars themselves seemed to whisper a warning. Do not anger the humans. Do not harm their children. Do not mistake their kindness for weakness. For when humanity goes to war, even empires fall.